Have you ever seen a movie that has a fictional story, but at the same time, even though everything in the movie has fictional characters and situations, it reflects the society we live in slightly accurately? So as you watch the movie, you begin to think in your head of very successful figures in the society we live in who portray and fit the idea of the movie's message. So once you begin to understand the message, you understand why the movie is a cult classic for many reasons. And to answer what movie I'm talking about, I'm referring to American Psycho and the actions and mannerisms of the main character Patrick Bateman. And with that being revealed and said, I want to tell you how and why this movie, based on a novel, successfully demonstrates what I like to call when position abuses power. First things first, let's get this out the way. For the people who have not seen this movie for some reason, you must either be living under a rock or you must be born in 2012. But that's besides the point. American Psycho was originally a novel written by Bret Easton Ellis, released in 1991, and then later turned into a film directed by Mary Herron, who also co-wrote the screenplay with Guinevere Turner, released in 2000. While editing the video, I just realized that Guinevere Turner played Elizabeth in the film. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. And to keep it brief, the movie is based on Patrick Bateman, of course, and he has a double life. To the public, he's a New York investment banker, but in his private life, he's a serial killer. So, yeah, that took a quick turn. And throughout the movie, he portrays this very villainous, immoral ideas and acts, which include homophobia, violence, misogyny, narcissism, drug addiction, and on top of that, he has a sex addiction. And when I mean sex addiction, I'm talking about picking up prostitutes on the side of the street, which is nothing wrong with. I mean, if you want to do that, do what you got to do. I mean, I can't blame you. You know what I'm saying? Do what you got to do. I wouldn't do it, but shit, nigga, different strokes for different folks. But, you know, just do what you got to do and don't be a weirdo like Patrick Bateman in the movie. Just, you know, do what you got to do and then, you know, give them their money and go about your day. Yeah. While watching the movie and seeing the message that I took away from the film, to go back and reference the intro of the video where I stated, I started to think of every famous and successful figure in America who this message pertains to. I was thinking from an individual standpoint of each famous person I could pinpoint, but then I realized all the famous people I'm thinking about fit in this one class. And the one class I'm talking about is the rich class, aka the 1% of America who has an excessive amount of wealth and can access the things the average working American can't. Each person in the 1%, whether they like it or not, has one trait of the immoral ideas and acts that Patrick Bateman displays throughout the movie. And when I say this, I don't mean to come off as an activist or some nigga that comes off like I'm trying to save and educate people, because in reality, I can only control so much. I can't control the world. But one thing I do know is I'm speaking from a realistic and factual standpoint. With that being said, one group of people who I know for a fact reflect Patrick Bateman in one way or another is billionaires. At first, like I said, I was going to pinpoint each billionaire, like Elon Musk doing this, Jeff Bezos doing that, Bill Gates doing this and the third, and others doing whatever they do. But then I thought to myself, each billionaire is a problem in society whether people realize it or not. Be specific, I feel like billionaires portray the narcissism and violence tendencies that Patrick Bateman displays in the film, because throughout the movie, Bateman shows clear signs of making it to the top no matter what, even if that involves killing his own colleagues to get ahead, just like he did to Paul Allen, who worked with him. So in other words, he has no problem seeing other people suffering from his consequences as long as he continues to be more successful in the end. That's how I also look at billionaires in American society. In a great article to explain the similarities between Bateman and billionaires is a Teen Vogue article written by Rebecca Aries called Billionaires Should Not Exist. And in the section of the article that asks the question, how does a billionaire become so wealthy? She states, it's impossible to have that much money without profiting off of other people's lack of it, even if individuals are only implicated discreetly. The capitalistic class generates profits upwards by denying workers a living wage, engaging in exploitative labor practices. And also in the same section, She says, wealth is also able to accumulate via close proximity to power, with corporate connections leading to elected office, or merely allowing people to use their influential status to set the agenda according to their own interest. And once I read that, it made me realize billionaires would do anything to make themselves remain or become more successful, even at the cost of exploiting labor of the working class. The last but important thing I want to touch on that is a huge theme throughout the film that I noticed that Patrick Bateman displays that a lot of high profile people in society tend to show signs of is misogyny and having an unhealthy sex addiction to the point it's weird. And I mean, if you have watched the film, you clearly notice that Bateman has some very misogynistic ways in the movie towards the women.
When I see a pretty girl walking down the street, I think two things. One part of me wants to take her out and talk to her, be real nice and sweet and treat her right.
And what the other part of him think?
What her head would look like on a stick.
And I mean, it makes sense because the movie's supposed to make fun of the idea of the hypocrisy of hegemonic masculinity to a certain extent. Because think about it. Bateman wants to one-up men and women in violent ways and do all these crazy, sick things to them. But as soon as he encountered Lewis Carruthers, who turns out to be a gay man, he almost panics and has an attack. And all his toughness went out the window. And you've seen him in a very emotional state for the first time until the ending, when he's on the phone with Harold telling all the crimes that he committed. Not to jump the gun so fast, but a person who I feel like represents the side of Bateman's sex addiction the most, that's a high profile figure that got away with a lot of very weird activities, is, come on my nigga, let's say it on three. 1, 2, 3, Diddy. I mean, bro, have you not heard the stories of the freak offs that people have been saying he was having? I mean, bro, this nigga got found with 1,000 bottles of baby oil. They found 1,000 bottles of baby oil in his house, and that was left. Imagine how much he used up until that point. But that's all I'm gonna say, because ain't nobody finna come for me. I ain't gonna lie. Ain't Diddy's people who's ain't finna come for me though. Oh God, fuck you talking about. My whole takeaway from this movie and how I interpret it is, people having a lot of power in high positions can use their influence in very bad ways to get what they want from people, and also to fulfill their own satisfactions with no consequences for most of the times, because most of the times they never get questioned for the actions by the people around them, because the sad reality is certain immoral acts and ideas that are clearly wrong have been normalized in certain high-level corporate spaces, so nobody bats an eye at people's decisions. And I feel like that type of environment and space was perfectly displayed in American Psycho. So yeah, that's how I feel. And without further ado, subscribe, and I'm gonna see you on the next video.
Your mom's a hoe.